I love that just the term, the vulnerability, being vulnerable to something, and I'll look at it in a different light. We have this joke amongst our customers and internally that we say, always be testing, right? Should always be testing. You always want to have that lifeline to customers, and I think it really applies to that always be learning component to it. So if you talked about launch readiness, and I love that topic. That's kind of what I wanted to kind of focus or hone in this in this podcast, but the idea of you might have learned something in market research or very early on, or you might have scoped a requirement really early, or you could have run into something technical, and 3, 6, 9 months from now, things could have changed. Technology could have opened up. Customers could change, and having the mindset to always keep learning, and I need to be curious, I need to be vulnerable, even if I'm a 2-year 10-year veteran of product management, there's no way you're going to be a veteran that year on that user in this environment because it's new to everybody. It's always new. So what say you about launch readiness in that stage of learning for a product manager?
And to clarify, Chris, that stage of learning being towards the later end of a project or early?
Yeah, well, right. I'll call. Actually, give me some advice here. When we talk about launch readiness, we think it's maybe a couple months before you're going out the door. You're getting your product buttoned up. You're talking to your support team, your marketing team. You're getting all this stuff ready to go out the door. What would you consider the launch readiness phase of development?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the launch readiness phase should be exciting. And what it feels like is it should feel exciting. It shouldn't feel so stressful because you've got a checklist of things. I got to get through these before we're ready to go. Because a good product manager has taken care of a lot of those things very early in the process. They're ready. And you're doing things to ensure that adoption numbers are going to be hit once you hit the market. You make sure there's not going to be teething pains that you see once it does hit the market, meaning operational readiness or the support features around the product, know what to do with it. And once it is in the world, you're mitigating, because they're going to happen, arguments on, is it a bug or is it a feature? Those sort of things. You don't want those. But also we don't want to take our eye off the ball yet. We're not fully coasting. We don't want teams to move on too quickly to the next thing. No, it's our job to we're rallying. Like, okay, everybody, are we ready? Are we ready? Let's make sure we're good to go. And the product is meeting the expectations that we want it to meet. And Chris, like you said, if we've learned something very early, and now once we are preparing for launch and we do something like a beta, it's our dress rehearsal. We need to know, is the value proposition being delivered upon? So that's our opportunity then to do it, not after it's out in the world.
Joe, what's a ready launch look like to you? Like if someone's asking, how do I know I'm ready?
Easy questions, right? Easy questions.
Yeah, easy question. How much time do we got again? I look at different teams across the organization, right? I ask, if I have a B2C product, is my sales team ready? Right? Do they feel like they're armed to start selling this product? Are they confident? Is my support team ready? Are we at a stage where if a customer calls in, we're like, oh yeah, you know what? Oh yeah, this is how we're going to solve it for you. Or here are some techniques to help you along the way. Is my dev team ready? Right? So making sure that, all right, do we have agreement on Sev 1, Sev 2, Sev 3? What are we going to work on next? Are my stakeholders ready? Are they ready to take calls from somebody in the organization who maybe hasn't been paying attention? Like, when I think about that internal operational readiness, that's what comes to the front of my mind in terms of, are we ready to rock and roll? And sometimes I get a little greedy and, I'm looking for testimonials. I'm looking for quotes. I'm looking for those success stories. because there's going to be naysayers. And what I'd like to have happen is it isn't Joe Ghali or Ryan Cantwell, running around the company saying, this is great. It's more like, hey, I have these other customers or other folks that have bought in that are kind of speaking on my behalf, where I know they're more likely to listen to them than they are to listen to us. Like those are the, it's like the lady spinning the plates. There's you can use that in many different scenarios, but that's really what comes to mind when we talk about that, like product readiness or that beta readiness from a product perspective.
That's a whole different type of challenge too. When you start working with other teams, I found that sometimes that last little bit, the change management, because people find change difficult. You're giving them something new they have to change, and trying to get through that can really be something else.
Oh, you're speaking my language, John. You're speaking my language. So one of my passions is change management. And so, we talked about some of the trends that we're starting to see. One of the biggest trends that's not talked a lot about, but we see it, is the with them, the what's in it for me. A lot of organizations are going to introduce beta testing. They're going to introduce a new product management framework. And there's just a lot of fatigue. There's different frameworks that have been introduced, right? People have probably gone through 3 versions of Agile training by this point in their careers, right? If they've been working for 20 years. And so really what we're finding is it isn't so much convincing the product manager, it's how do we help them bring their leadership along on the journey? How do we help them bring the support team, the cross-functional teams, the shared services like accounting and finance, who aren't living in Agile or who aren't living in product management, have buy-in? And so really where we have had to really spend a lot of time is, okay, what's next? How are you going to maintain momentum? What's going to help you transform? And that's making sure people going into this change are aware. Do they have that desire? So they're bought into it, so that when you do bring that concept to them, like beta testing, they're open-minded. Because you can have the greatest process, you can have the greatest idea improvement, but if that person or team you're speaking to isn't bought in, doesn't matter. You can have the greatest thing ever, but if they don't know why it's important or they're not bought into it going into the conversation, forget it.